A very good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our innovLogue on bridging mature worker employability with training and job redesign. Well, in 2020, I'm sure you're very well aware of the fact that nearly 45% of our population was above the 45 years of age. And by 2030, 1 in 4 citizens will be aged 65 years and above. And of course, there's no denying that our resident fertility rate is declining. So let's wear a critical hat and examine this local and global crisis. Let's dig deep and look at some strategies employers can adopt to keep their experienced and skilled workforce in the market, in their jobs. Let's see what we can do as individuals to stay employable and find meaningful jobs in this digitally upskilled generative AI era. Let's reflect on whether our current job redesign efforts are enough to overcome the challenges of an aging workforce. Now, with this in mind, let's begin our session for today. My name is Nilanjana, and I am from the Innovation Center at the Institute for Adult Learning. And together with my colleague Raymond, we will be your host for today. As we will soon start today's program, let me run through some administrative details. First of all, we are very humbled with a positive response to this session, with nearly 160 registrants. Now, in case our online audience gets logged out, please simply join back the session. The entire forum will take about an hour, with sharing from Singapore University of Social Sciences, NTUC, as well as Novotel Singapore. This is then followed by a dialogue session where your questions will be addressed collectively and thematically. During the forum, please feel free to send in your questions via the Zoom Q&A you see at the bottom of your screen. Or even better, just unmute to ask. Please refrain from posting questions in the chat box. Let's keep it merely for an interactive conversation. We will try our best to answer your questions. And finally, this forum is recorded, and we'll be sharing the recording on our webpage. Now, without much further ado, let me invite on stage Associate Professor Carol Ma. Carol Ma, Associate Professor and Head of Gerontology Program, is also a Senior Fellow, Center for Experiential Learning, Singapore University of Social Sciences. She is known among academia and the community sector as an active and passionate practitioner of service learning and aging in Asia. Her research focuses on health and social care integration, service learning, intergenerational bonding. In order to address the aging population, Carol has also set up a business roundtable with Johnson & Johnson to promote longevity, economy, inclusive workplace, age-friendly human resources policy as well. In addition, Carol also leads the WHO's ICO project, a gerontechnology living lab, and reminiscence in aged care. In today's session, Prof. Carol will offer insights into the changes in people as they age, their ability to upskill, as well as corporate longevity guidelines and mindset shifts which are required to extend employability. Let's hear it from Prof. Carol on who, when, where is our mature worker. Over to you, Prof. Carol.
Thank you, Nina. Yeah, so what I will do is, share my slide first. So good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, so what I'm going to do today is I will set the scene. I will have around 10 to 15 minutes to set the scene, because later on, Celine and also Leslie will actually talk about, different examples. Yeah, and so my topic today will focus on healthy and economy longevity. What are the implications for aging workforce in Singapore? So I'm sure that you all know that the world is aging. Yeah, and so in the global populations, we also see that there will represent over 20% of the people aged 60 or above. And in Singapore, 1 in 4 of Singaporeans will be aged 65 or above by 2030. So the life expectancy is something that we always talk about, right? Yeah, and so we will also see that the life expectancy is also, getting higher in different countries, including in Singapore also. But when we have a longer life, we also need to ask ourselves whether we can have a healthy life expectancy. So we want to have, healthy longevity. So while actually longer life, and then we also have, birth rates decline, then we have to ask ourselves what are the implications, whether we have also prepared well or not. Yeah, because the aging populations are increasingly critically because of we also need to think about the talent and also the consumer populations because they are actually a quite crucial population for us. So when we look at the population, right, we always talk about the concept of healthy longevity. Yeah, and when we actually understand about the healthy longevity, it means that, it is about the years in good health approach. As I mentioned, we have a longer life. We actually getting also healthier. So in our biological lifespan, also with physical, cognitive, and social functioning. So while we have a healthy longevity, we also see a lot of opportunity in longevity economy. For those who are working in the business sector, I'm sure that you also notice that we have more people, they can actually generate, money. And for example, in US, they actually can project it in 2050, they actually have more worth of the money increase because of the economic activities generated by the older adults. So not only US talk about the longevity economy, but even in the whole world, we always talk about it is because of the aging populations. But when we look at the terms longevity economy, actually it accounts for millions of job rates and also wages and salary. And this actually also reflects our longer and healthier life of people. And when we actually combine all together, we ask ourselves whether we can also generate healthy dividends. Because, when we look at, the whole population aging, so we understand that, we are getting healthier, then can we also generate dividends? Yeah, and this also poses to the questions to a lot of company and even a lot of government. They have to really think about the concept of retirement. Yeah, and some of the country, they don't even have a retirement age. If you look at Singapore, we also postpone our retirement age. When people are working longer, whether company, they are also ready, to, have, people they are working longest, whether the job natures are ready, whether we need to redesign the job, whether we need to upskilling the job. So it's actually something that we have to ask ourselves. Yeah, and we have to actually keep asking us whether we are preparing for the demographic shift. Yeah, and so in actually, you see, this is actually the news from one of the report. Older people will exist a quarter of G7's workforce by 2031. So this is actually a massive, shift. Yeah, and this also global report mentioned about that 150 millions of jobs will shift to workers over the age of 55 by 2030. So I think those who are from business, we actually need to be ready about it. Yeah, how we can actually train our older workers and how we can also retain the workforce, because low fertility rates also a question for us to think about our workforce. So that's the reason why a lot of company, they are also reviewing their HR policy. Yeah, and then in Japan, right, you see that they have 40% of the workforce already over 55. And Europe and US, they are also not far behind. Yeah, between 25 to 30. Yeah, and then in China, they are also, having the same issue. So, even, fewer young people are entering in the workforce because of the lower fertility rate. So this is actually something that a lot of people they actually are aware about it. It's not only about from the government perspective, even from the business sector, because they see actually they need to have productive for their business, then they need to actually consider about the workforce also. So this is actually the aging population in Singapore. Nina actually mentioned about that. If you actually really look at our populations, right? So again, the life expectancy is getting higher. Yeah, and then so we also see the health adjusted life expectancy also higher. Yeah, and then so we have to ask ourselves again. So when we have a longer life, yeah, so what are we planning to do? Yeah, are we going to work? Yeah, and do we actually work? When we work, whether we actually also serve the meaning of life? Because later on, I will also mention about that. What are the 4 key pillars for people when they getting age? So this actually also some news mentioned about that more people are reaching 100 years old. Yeah, and then with the life expectancy and also good health situations. So some people actually are preferring if they can work, they can continue to work. So a lot of people, they are now talking about, when we talk about retirement, we don't really just talk about retire. They retire, actually they rewire, because they will actually start part-time, or maybe they will actually do volunteer work, or maybe they will continue to stay in the workforce. So if you look at the data, yeah, and I know that Leslie later on will also show this data. Yeah, we have more people the age 65, yeah, they are still working in Singapore. So then we have to ask ourselves, are we still because when we talk about we recruit older workers, and something that a lot of people will come in the mind immediately is about ageism. Yeah, then how's our perception of older workers? So do we really know what do older workers want and their needs? And with the opportunity of healthy and economy longevity, can we join hands to create more healthy dividends? Can we even think about whether we can turn silver to gold? Yeah, this is actually our role here, because these sessions today, we will definitely talk about it. But when we talk about perception of the older workers, this actually also come back to some people, they have stereotypes about the older workers. So this actually are some facts and also fact check for you guys to know about that. So older workers, some people said that older workers are more resilient to change than their younger colleagues. Yeah, and actually they actually have a reality check in some of the study. Yeah, mentioned about that older workers are more likely than younger workers to introduce and adapt to change. Yeah, and then we also have some people, they actually think that older workers are not as healthy as younger employees. We understand that when we get older, that may actually have some change on our health. But there are some key clinical measures may actually not relevant to the older workers also. So that's actually something that we actually need to know about the myth about how we see older workers. Yeah, and then another thing is about older workers are less interested in additional training or career development. Yes, yeah, older workers are slightly less likely than younger employee to participate in career development program, but it doesn't mean that they don't want to learn new things. Yeah, and a lot of older workers, they also want to learn new things. And then older workers look down on younger colleagues. Yeah, and some evidence support that the validity of this stereotype, but further research we actually need. Yeah, and some of the older workers, they actually work closely with the younger colleagues, because they also want to learn from them. Because, for example, a lot of younger workers, they actually know how to use tech. So some of the company, they actually promote multi-generational bonding within the company, in order to learn get the different generations that people, they can learn from each others. So and then another stereotype is older workers are more expensive to hire and retain. Yeah, and reality is some of the older workers, they don't mind to actually have pay cut. Yeah, and because what they want is they continue to engage in the workforce. Yeah, and more facts that I can also share with you is, some study also mentioned about that older workers actually tend to shine in many areas. Yeah, and they are less resistant to change than younger workers, less likely to leave the organization, less likely to miss work, and they are also innovative and able to keep up with the technology as long as you create opportunity for them to learn. And also older workers tend to excel in the following area, including engagement and motivations, because they have a lot of life experience, productivity, professionalizations, and then reliability, problem solving and critical thinking, experience and institutional knowledge, and customer service. So actually, when we think about the stereotype of the elderly, and then also the facts that we know actually elderly, they can also do for the work. And Stanford University, they have this new map of life, mention about that there are 4 important pillars when we age. And so a lot of elderly, when they work, right, and they will think about whether the job that is, meaningful or not. They will think about the purpose of their life. They will also consider their family. They will consider their health and, of course, finance. If they really retire, whether they have enough money for them to retire or not. So, of course, when we get older, we will also have some common challenges among older adults. And there are some structural challenges, emotional challenges, or physical challenges. So when we do job redesign, and then we have to also understand about the aging, process and the change of different, challenges of our older adults. So I'm not going to go through it one by one, because we also understand that older adults, they are heterogeneous. But this actually are the common challenges that we also need to bear in mind when we have older workers in our workplace. And then so somehow when you create any training, then you also need to tackle to this also. So what can companies they can offer? So definitely an age-friendly workplace and even age-friendly human resources policy actually something that the company they can consider. So I have been working with Johnson & Johnson to set up this aging business roundtable. And the reason that we set up this aging business roundtable is actually to bring like-minded business partners, universities, and stakeholders together, because we want to explore about the issue of aging, in order to promote a sustainable, healthy future for the community in which we live, work, and operate and serve. So we have a number of organizations working with us. We actually organized 6 business roundtables. We just finished one this Monday, and then we actually talk about aging inclusion. We also published 3 white papers, and then we have over 49 organizations join us. We actually exchange a lot of issues related to the senior employment, and then job redesign, and then also how we can actually see aging as a source of innovations. So we actually come up afterward with Johnson & Johnson, and they actually work on a business case as their company. They actually want to promote longevity ecosystem. So how we actually do that? We actually think that the most important is we need to create more business cases. And then Johnson & Johnson actually have a case that also want to, let people to live longer and also healthier. And then they keep thinking about, the talent pool, how to actually think of the future of the talent landscape. They also actually consider about the benefit to the employee, like the personal health and well-being and family care, and reskilling and also development. This is something that later on NTUC and also Lofotel will also mention about that, how actually they do reskilling program, education assistance, formal and informal career planning. And so they also do the job redesign and also provide different type of job for people to do. And the most important is how we can actually create job with purpose and also inclusions. So when we actually talk about this longevity ecosystem, right, we think that it's not only about one company can do. We actually can invite more company to join us, because what we actually hope is we will actually create a protocol to create a age-friendly human resources guideline that could actually benefit to other organizations. So based on our last conversation conversation in the aging inclusion. So what we will do is we will publish a guideline. Yeah, maybe if you are interested, you can email me. Then we will also share with you after we finish the guideline. So at the end, what I want to highlight is why we all care about the issue is we actually also want to create productive seniors, connected seniors, and also healthier seniors. So what we need to do is we need the whole of the society to work together to address to issue together. So I hope that my presentations can set the foundation for the next speakers to talk about the real case of senior employment and also job redesign. So thank you very much, and I'll pass the time to Lena again.
Thank you, Prof. Carol. That was a very good base and very fast indeed. We feel really empowered. So, I think there were lots of points that kind of struck, mature career planning, retirement planning, silver to gold. So, we're just wondering that, there is this, I was reading about gerontology, and because that's what your forte is, and educational neuroscience. So is there something in theory or something that actually supports, on this topic of fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence, basically how we age, our experience is actually building on. And with respect to that, how do you see that mature workers are ready to embrace digital technology? Yeah.
I think there are different aspects that we have to look into. Yeah, it also depends on the background of the elderly. Yeah, and then so if you look into this cohort of the senior, right? Yeah, if you according to some of the statistics, yeah, we actually have quite a number of elderly, over 60%. They also know how to use some smart device. Yeah, and then but if you're actually talking about embrace with the technology and then talking about the work, it really depends on whether the elderly they are willing to do or not. Yeah, and then another thing is about the training. Yeah, and if you notice, we actually just published the pedagogy standard. Yeah, it is actually about how to train the seniors. Yeah, and so it's actually a guideline how to change the senior. We actually incorporate the digital inclusions inside the guideline. And the reason that we have it is because in the past few years, because of the pandemic, we actually use quite a number of technology. Yeah, and then so some of the elderly, they also need to use the technologies to communicate with their friends, or maybe use the technology to redeem the vouchers, or maybe even they need to actually learn about how to use Zoom. Yeah, so we actually see in the long term, if you ask me, at this cohort, we are gradually getting more senior to learn about how to use technology. But are we already, if you ask me, I think we need more time, because training is the most important part. And then also how to train, and whether we understand about the need of the elderly, and whether the trainer, they actually also have the empathy to train the older workers. So I think that's actually a lot of variables that we have to consider. So if you ask me about the theory, right? Yeah, and then one thing that I think we can actually look into what I mentioned about the pedagogy framework. Yeah, because I think in the long run, pedagogy is not just applied in social service organizations. Even in the workforce, we can actually use it. Yeah, it's a matter of whether people they aware about the aging thing. So I give you an example. So some of the people, if you know that, I don't know whether you also noticed that actually in the whole world, every 3 seconds we have one person diagnosed with dementia. Yeah, and so people actually, the number of people with cognitive decline will be increasing. Yeah, and then so if you are an employee, if you are an employer, or if you are a trainer, you don't aware that when people reach to certain age, they may actually have some symptom. But we have to understand this is actually part of the aging process, how we can embrace it. If you, as a trainer, you don't really embrace it, then you will see, okay, this is actually, you know, you don't remember things all the time. You just bring on the people. But actually, if we know about that, yeah, we understand that. Yeah. So that's why we will try to see how we can maintain the cognitive level. So you're using another perspective to train the older workers. And then older workers, they realize that, okay, I have this issue, then how can I maintain? They will pay more effort to maintain their cognitive decline. Yeah, it doesn't mean that they will dramatically to drop immediately. Yet they can actually maintain. So what I want to say is, again, having an empathy, yeah, and then also, you know, sufficient training, and also depends on what are the technology you want to introduce, you know, to the older workers. Yeah, and even myself, right, I'm also keep catching up. I think we all are catching up. Yeah, and then when we have new technology, we also need to learn. Yeah, so whatever you are in which age, maybe you learn faster, but you know the best way is, you know, someone can share with you. You understand my pace, then I can learn better. The companion thing is actually very important. Yeah.
All right, that's great. Thank you, Prof. Carol. So with this note, I think it's Dr. Celine, over to you with training, the need, the empathy, yes, and how can we really tailor it? Yes.
Thank you very much. Yes. So I'll share my screen first. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
If Prof. Carol, I think I might need you to stop your screen share before I can share mine.
Okay, just a minute. Yes. Okay. So Dr. Celine is Deputy Director, Strategy Group, National Trades Union, Congress, NTUC, and in her role at NTUC, she conducts strategic research and studies to identify emerging trends with that impact workers and the labor movement. She's also the founding editor for the Singapore Labor Journal, and we'd like to hear more about that also, Dr. Celine. So in this presentation, she will discuss the challenges faced by mature workers, particularly regarding learning opportunities, and suggest ways in which training and learning design could be evolved to address this issue. Yes, over to you, Dr. Celine.
Thank you very much. Let me try. I hope you are able to see the screen. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, so a very good afternoon to all ladies and gentlemen. So my name is Celine from NTUC, not from FairPrice or Income that you might be more familiar with, but from the National Trade Union Congress, which essentially is the headquarters of the labor movement. So I'm from the strategy group where we do a lot of research projects on labor issues and some in partnership with the various IHLs. Really with the aim of developing longer term recommendations on how we could better support our workers, including our mature workers. So therefore, today's topic is something that's very, very close to my heart, especially when I'm a mature worker myself. So I'll be sharing the context of today's work, and then the impact of our mature workers, and also how we could really enhance learning and skills development for our mature workers. So I think really the skills that is required of our workers, especially, you know, our mature workers at the workplace, is evolving very, very rapidly. Or in the past, we thought that only routine tasks would be replaced by automation. But really, you know, recently, you know, due to the advancements of technology, especially in generative AI, you know, it highlights that our knowledge workers are equally at risk. So the race of skills has quickened from what is so-called a Toyota pace to a Ferrari contest. So I think even the founder of World Economic Forum also shared that in the new world, it's not the big fish which eats the small fish. In fact, it is the fast fish which eats the slow fish. So I think it's important for us and also our mature workers as well, right? How we can really learn fast, unlearn fast, and relearn fast throughout our entire career. So even I myself have been playing around with all the different AI tools, you know, the ChatGPT is perhaps one of my most frequently visited websites recently. And as you can see here, I also play with the different AI filters. So when I show these photos to my children, right, they can't tell that it's actually an AI generated photo. So they were saying that, oh, mommy, that's how you look when you were young. And mommy, so you quit your job as a cook in the past because you couldn't cook well, right? And your cooking has not improved since then. So jokes aside, right? So I'm really very fascinated and really impressed with what AI can do for us. But at the same time, also very worried on the impact of AI on our workers, especially our mature workers as well. So I think recently World Economic Forum has also shared a report about how they projected that millions of jobs will be lost. And in fact, Singapore will face similar challenges like the rest of the world when it comes to jobs and skills. So it was actually identified that, projected that in Singapore, we will see a net decline in jobs such as you can see here, accounting, bookkeeping, data entry clerks, even managing directors and CEOs. And in fact, 93,000 resident workers in Singapore are currently in those jobs that will see net decline. On the bright side, we would see an increase in jobs such as AI and machine learning specialists, business development professionals, project managers, or sorts, right? And the top 3 key skills that are in demand now are actually cognitive skills, self-efficacy, and technology skills. So then this brings me to the next point about, then what's the impact of tech on our mature workers, right? So I think it was found that countries that age also tend to be countries that automate more. So what happens to Singapore, right? Singapore is a super aged country. And in this sense, we have a 54% risk of automation to older workers. What this means is that based on the tasks that are currently performed by older workers, actually 54% are automatable. So what this means is also that our older and low-skilled workers may face a great threat from automation. So it's really important for us to upskill, to reskill our mature workers, to enhance their employment employability so that they can continue to contribute meaningfully, to be gainfully employed, in this evolving world of work. And on this topic on tech and mature workers now, right, I also like to debunk some of the myths that we might have about mature workers. So we often, have some stereotypes and hear that, mature workers are resistant to technology, are resistant to training, as what Prof. Carol has also shared earlier, right? But what findings from our research has actually also shown that actually it's not so much about age. So while resistance to tech adoption and training may be for mature workers and younger staff are generally more receptive to tech, but the resistance actually came about from their apprehension towards handling new technology and also the lack of awareness of digital trends rather than age per se. So even throughout our research and our encounters with workers, there are a lot of mature workers who are actually very positive, who look forward to adoption of more tech and are also very keen to learn new skills. So one example, personal example, is my mom. Okay, she actually does not communicate in English. She is unable to converse in English. She's unable to read English characters because she did not receive any education when she was young. So no Hanyu Pinyin as well. But yet now she's actually most active, on Facebook and on WhatsApp as compared to anyone else in her family. She's most active. So, and a survey that we have rolled out previously, when given the opportunity to participate in training, in fact, 9 out of 10 mature workers will accept these training opportunities. However, on the other side of the coin, only 51% of the mature workers are being invited to participate in training in the past 5 years. So a survey that we have rolled out to 564 business leaders across sectors in Singapore, when we asked, right, actually the top group of workers that business leaders send for training, unfortunately, they are not our mature workers. They are not workers with skills gaps. The top group of workers that business leaders will send for training are workers who are considered high potential. Therefore, it's like giving power ups to those who are already winning the race. Therefore, I think it's really important for us to level the playing field to ensure that all workers will have access to training and learning, especially our mature workers who will benefit greatly from these training and learning opportunities. And I think in addition to knowing about what are the training opportunities that are afforded to our mature workers, it's also important for us to understand the barriers to training faced by mature workers. And therefore, let's think about what are some innovative approaches that we can actually think about to address some of these barriers. Commonly known to us are cost, money, and time. But one interesting insight that we have uncovered from our research was that actually, even if you give more money to the workers, they may not necessarily allocate that to training. Therefore, if we just use monetary incentive to motivate workers to go for more training, has its limitations. But time constraints are real. Having to balance work, education, and family is really not easy. Therefore, we will need to think of innovative approaches to address the issue of time, how we can make training and learning a bit more flexible. Could we think about workplace learning? How can we bring training and learning to the workplace? So therefore, I'm going to share with you an actual case study. So Hua is actually a unionized waste management company. So Hua actually started off as a one-man garang-guni and has since grown to become one of the leading leaders in the green sector in Singapore. So NTUC has formed a company training committee, Hua, CTC in short, where we bring together the unions as well as the management of the organization to map up the transformation of the company in the next 3 to 5 years. And actually through this mapping, then we are able to identify which are the jobs that will be impacted, what are the skills that will be required of the workers, including the mature workers as well, for them to continue to stay relevant, even as the company transforms. So Melissa, as you can see in the picture here, she's actually the boss of the company. She believed very strongly in upskilling and reskilling her workers, especially the mature workers as well, because there's actually quite a substantial number of mature workers in the company. So, and she always places workers at the core of a company's transformation. However, sending workers to go for training is really challenging due to manpower constraint. So attracting workers to join her company, right, is really like climbing Mount Everest, because waste management is not a sexy sector to begin with. And we can't afford not having people to collect our waste for a few days in Singapore as well. So what we did, we bring training to the workplace. We got one of her worker, in fact, it's a mature worker, to be a training ambassador who will then work hand in hand with adult educators to co-create the training curriculum. And interestingly, this training curriculum is not taught by the adult educator, it's actually taught by the mature worker to her peers in bite-size 1 hour per day before the start of work each day over a period of time. And actually, this innovative approach has actually very, very positive outcomes. I think first and foremost, because the trainer is actually also the worker herself, she's actually able to customize the curriculum to meet the needs of the company. And also at the same time, she's able to teach in a language, in a lingo that is well understood by her peers, because some of them are non-English speaking. And she's also able to bridge the gap between theory and practice. And actually also the mature worker, she's actually able, to mentor, to coach her peers, and also offer immediate opportunities for the knowledge and the skills that is learned during these bite-sized sessions to apply at work almost immediately. So this is just one of the many examples that I believe that many progressive companies are also adopting to address some issues about training and learning. So on this note, I thought that we can then delve a bit deeper on how we could enhance skills development of our mature workers. So if you look at this slide, right, currently it shows a picture of pills. You must be wondering, Celine, why are you showing this picture of pills, right? So actually, these pills are actually what, if I share with you, it's multivitamin. And why do we take multivitamin, right? It's because of health reasons. Because we want to increase our immunity, for example, and also because we don't want to take multiple pills, we want all benefits to be encapsulated in one pill. Therefore, we take a multivitamin. What if I share with you that we can also use a multivitamin approach to think about skills development of our mature workers? So let me give you an example. So actually, if we use a multivitamin approach to think about skills development, actually we can map out what are the different pathways that our mature workers could actually take on. So let me bring you through step by step, and I will illustrate it with an example as well later. So perhaps let's think about what is the current role that the mature worker is in. And should the company transform or there's an introduction of the technology, let's think about how that role will be changed or transformed as well. And should the mature worker be moved into another department or would like to be moved to another department, what might be the adjacent role that he or she could take on? And finally, what is a higher value role that the mature worker could take on as well? So let me give you an example using a banking sector, for instance. So we do have bank tellers. who seated behind the counter to provide service to the customers, right? And we have a number of bank tellers who are mature workers as well. So we know that in recent years, the many banks have actually undergo a lot of digital transformation, and we may not need that many bank tellers anymore, okay, because many transactions can now be performed online. So where do these bank tellers go to, right? So some of them are actually upskilled to take on a transformed role to become a digital ambassador, where they will be standing at the entrance of the branches to provide service to the customers. There will also be others who actually move on to another department to be a relationship officer, where they provide guidance and advice on investment plans to the clients. And of course, there are also others who actually have leadership capability, who demonstrate that they might have the leadership capabilities to take on a leadership role to be a relationship manager. So this is not exhaustive, but just to provide an overview of how we can use a multivitamin approach to think about the pathways that our mature workers could take on. And if we are able to identify what may be these potential pathways, we are then able to identify what are the key skills that they will need to be upskilled in for them to take on these roles effectively. So for instance, from a bank teller to a digital ambassador, the key one could be digital skills. From a bank teller to a relationship officer, other than the technical skills of perhaps different investment plans, one key area would be customer relationship management. And of course, from a bank teller to relationship manager, it might be customer relationship management as well as leadership managerial skills. Now, the key idea here is that the list is not exhaustive, but it's just to provide an illustration on how we could use a multivitamin approach to think about the pathways as well as then the skills needed. Yeah, so this just provides an overview. So if we take a look here, right, a simple table will then help us to identify, using a multivitamin approach, what the roles that the mature worker could take on and what are the additional skills required to take on these roles. Now, what happens if actually we can use a multivitamin approach as well to think about training and learning approaches? What this means is that training and learning is not just limited to one mode, because multi-mode, right? So multi-modes of training and learning opportunities, which means that we need not limit ourselves to classroom training and learning. We could actually have mentoring, workplace learning, online learning, and many other case studies, role plays as well. The list is not exhaustive, but the idea is that let's plan for different modes of training and learning to enhance skills development. Now, we need to understand that the needs, aspirations, priorities of mature workers are different from younger workers. And even among the mature workers themselves, everyone might have different needs, learning needs as well. So how can we constantly plan for the different modes of training and learning to better support our mature workers? And most importantly as well, as we plan for the different modes, how we can make it seamless across these different modes of training and learning. So the why and what example was one example of how we actually make it a bit seamless of mentoring, workplace learning, bite-sized learning, and even classroom training. So with that, if you can see here, so if we take an overview of how, when we do the mapping, right, we are able to identify what the roles are, what are the additional skills needed, then we can think about to develop digital skills. In addition, perhaps to the classroom training, let's tap on mobile learning as well. For customer relationship management, we can think about having role play case studies. And for leadership managerial skills, we might also introduce, having a mentor or coach at the workplace or even role play as well. So again, this is just using a simple example to illustrate how we can use a multivitamin approach to think about learning, skills development, and even learning approaches. So with that, I thought just to wrap up my sharing with 3 key thoughts or 3 ideas for us to think about. I think first and foremost is that how we need to place workers, and in this case, mature workers, at the core of our training and learning approaches, bearing in mind that they have different needs, aspirations, and priorities. And secondly, I think training and learning is really critical to every worker, especially our mature workers, to enhance their employment and employability. So if time is an issue, okay, what are the ways we can think about to make training and learning a bit more flexible, more accessible for our mature workers, especially when we know that the top group of workers that are being sent for training are unfortunately not mature workers. And finally, one idea for us to think about also align with what Prof. Carol has shared earlier, how the different stakeholders can come together to collaborate to create this training and learning ecosystem that can better support our mature workers. So be it the government agencies, the trade unions, employers, workers, adult educators, IHL, how can we further collaborate really to create this community of learning that is really conducive for our mature workers? And with that, I come to the end of my last slide. So if you have any queries and I'm unable to address some of your queries in the interest of time, you can always send me an email, or you would like to explore research collaboration, you can send me an email as well. And for some of the research findings that I have shared earlier, if you would like to download the full report or even download a copy of our Singapore Labour Journal, you can scan here as well. And with that, thank you. I pass the time back to Neela.
Thank you, Dr. Silen, for this wonderful presentation. I mean, thank you for sharing, like case studies that are ground up, and then how buddy systems, how empathy, how co-creation of curriculum is actually leading towards this job redesign and learning. So just you've given us lots of ideas to think about. So now I was just wondering, we were just thinking that hiring managers have indicated, there's greater openness. Is that first of all true, that towards candidates who acquire hard skills through these short skills focused online courses? Is that really something, the trend that hiring managers are looking towards, especially if they're online versus face-to-face? And what is also your opinion, on the basic skills attainment versus intermediate and advanced? So yeah.
Yeah, so I think coming to your question, right? Actually, a recent research study that we have done, we find that hiring managers, actually, they are really looking beyond academic qualifications already. So what they are really looking out for is other than academic qualifications, right? Skills, passion to learn, and really hunger for the job. Later we can hear more from Leslie, like, is that true? But at least from the focus group discussions that, we have conducted with all the different hiring managers, HR, CTO, CIOs, all that, right? They are really looking out for skills and actually the hunger for the job and passion to learn. So I think that really opens up as well, that people are really looking beyond academic qualifications and really more open towards, like candidates who acquire hard skills through short skills focused courses. Because why? You realize that actually many people nowadays, they don't really, learning is not limited just to formal learning. I know of people who learn a third language, learn music, learn coding, not through the usual classroom training, but learn through peers, learn through online learning, self-learning, YouTube learning, for instance, and even the very skills-focused, online courses as well. So I think really, I believe that, when hiring managers actually are more open towards this kind of candidates, they actually open up a pool of talents that employers can hire from us. So actually, it increases the pool as well. Then, even I think this morning, I just came back from SUTD. So they have this Echo 42, which is very, very new, innovative ideas where there is no teachers at all, and then it's really very much dependent on peer learning. Yeah. So I thought actually moving forward really, and how we learned, it's very different from the past traditional education system where we think that we learn everything in our early years and then coast on the knowledge. I think it's no longer sufficient. I think we need to really think about how we can learn and work, and learn fast, throughout an entire career. Yeah, correct.
Mm-hmm. So indeed, lifelong learning.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Silen. And with this insightful takeaway, now we will hear from our industry and job redesign practitioner and director, Mr. Leslie Lee. He's Area Director of Talent and Culture, Novotel Singapore and Stevens, with over 20 years of experience in leadership, learning and development, change management, job redesign, Leslie has helped his organization attain the Skills Future Employers Award for 2020 and the Workforce Resilience Award in 2022 in recognition of employee skills development and lifelong learning culture. He will share case studies and strategies for maximizing the potential of mature employees, spotlighting some exemplary examples. And if from little what I know of Mr. Leslie, he's a strong believer of an HR professional, and the strength of an HR professional lies in their patience, resilience, aptitude, and passion. So with that, over to you, Mr. Leslie.
Thank you, Neela. I enjoyed the last two sessions, so now my turn. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, you can see it, right? Okay, good. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Leslie, the Area Director of Talent and Culture at Novotel Singapore and Stevens and Mature Singapore and Stevens. So as mentioned before, currently the hotels, they have a, sorry, I can't see my slides, is it?
Yeah, I think just press the presenter view.
Give me a moment. Stop sharing. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes, we see. Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you. Sometimes we have technology, Okay, like I mentioned, I'm actually the Area Director of Talent and Culture. Technically, I lead the human resource team at Novotel Singapore and Stevens and Mature Singapore and Stevens. Okay, as mentioned, in the hotel industry, we have a manpower crisis, and we not only look at mature workers, we also work with persons with disability as well. So what happened was in 2021, we actually received the Enabling Mark Award in Silver, and as well as I also received the Enabling Champion Award in 2021 from our president himself. As mentioned earlier, we also have received the Skills Future Employers Award in 2020. That's because we've been doing a lot of training for all our artists or employed talents in the hotel itself. So let's dive a bit deeper. What does silver lining mean? Of course, we call it mature workers, but it's no secret the workforce is aging at a rapid speed, as mentioned by Prof. Carol and Dr. Celine as well. And we also mentioned it, sometimes we term it as silver tsunami or the gray wave. The term silver lining seems promising and positive as it looks for ways to turn their aging workforce into a competitive age, which I will explain in a while. So, same as Prof. Carol's slides, the aging population has actually increased. The ages at 65, and it's slowly moving from 2020 from 22%, now it's almost 33%. So what's a labor age diverse workforce? Age diversity is an important piece of inclusive and effective workplace. And it's also, since the average workplace now includes members of at least 4 generations, companies that embrace all ages are most likely to succeed. So if you see, these are the silent generations, those who are 60, 76 and above, the baby boomers, and of course the Gen X, like myself, the millennials, the Gen Zs, and then now we have this thing called the Gen Alpha, those who are 8 and below. So at Novotel Singapore and Stevens, we actually have 16 talents who are aged 60 years and above. And we also employed 12 persons with disabilities. And we also have 5 yellow ribbon beneficiaries working for us in the hotel itself. And we've also have return to work moms, retirees in the kitchen, F&B service, and housekeeping as well. So let me show you some of meet our everyday superheroes. We have Uncle Gerald, who's a former chef. Now he does F&B service staff. We have Uncle Melvin, a former service associate. He comes to work every morning without fail. He starts work at 7 o'clock and goes back at 12 o'clock. And Auntie Janet as well, a former healthcare aide. And to them, Uncle Melvin tell me, age is just a number. Maturity is a choice. And we have Uncle Robert. Uncle Robert is interesting. He's very close to our PWDs. He's like an uncle to them, like a fatherly figure to for PWDs. He really is very close, talks to them, sometimes feeds them too much also. And then we have Auntie Jenny, as well as Uncle Harry, a former taxi driver who came back to help us be an F&B service staff. And they always say, I've got nothing better to do at home. Why not kind of work? And to them, to come to work for 5 hours, 6 hours is better than staying at home doing nothing. So why is age diverse workplace important? Like I think we heard from Prof. Carol and Dr. Celine, studies have showed that an age diverse workplace improves the overall performance of a company. And many of the I will explain to you in a while, many of our mature workers do not even take medical leave. I can see them almost every other day at work. And they also want to increase productivity, create a mixed age work teams at your organization when groups are involved in complex decision-making tasks. It reduces employee turnover, okay, and as well as offers a variety of skill sets. They all bring their own skill sets. Like I think Dr. Celine mentioned about the bank teller as well. They come up with a lot of experience, and they are also able to educate the younger generation as well. So let me introduce you to Uncle Lee. Uncle Lee is 76 years old, and he was also featured in the Human Resource article. And he's like a grandfather to one of our PWDs, very close to this gentleman. And in 2015, we have Uncle Gom, who was actually a handyman in the hotel. So he actually retired quite early. And one day I met him while walking to work. And I saw him and said, hey, Uncle, what are you doing? Oh, nothing to do. I just walk around. I said, why don't you come back and help us out and to come work part-time for us? He says, is that possible? I said, of course you can come and work part-time for us. He came and he had a lot of experience as a technician. And basically, he was really a motivator. I've never seen him take MC. He keeps saying for 20 years, he's not even seen a doctor yet. And he just recently retired because his children told him to take care of the grandchildren. So in 2015, NTUC, thank you, he was presented with an Inspirational Worker Award at the Mayday Partnership in 2016 itself. So that was really good for him. Now, meet this, I call him Ranger Sam. This is Uncle Sam, we call him in the hotel. He's actually an ex-commando officer. And he came for interview. Actually, I know him from when I was doing my national service. And this gentleman came in looking for a job as in most ex-soldiers will come in as security officers. And I looked at him and said, security? I think you can be better with gas. And true enough, he can speak to anybody and everybody that walks into through the doors of a hotel. And he was really good. So when COVID hit us, he came to me and says, Leslie, I think I will retire, give the job to a younger guy. I have my pension, I will be able to do it. So after COVID, I called him again. I said, come back and work. He said, no, I want to go and spend time with my grandchildren. So that technically he's retired. Spend time with his friends. So this is one gentleman I really miss. Uncle Chung as well. He's basically a carpenter, still working with us now. He's really very good. He's really skilled in what he does. So if you ever come to a hotels, if you see the carpentry work that has been done, is done by this Uncle Chung himself. So like I mentioned earlier, we have actually worked with also received the Enabling Award. So this year, we actually received the Enabling Awards gold. That was presented to my general manager, and my colleague was actually the Enabling Buddy Award, which I nominated her. And that's the talent and culture manager. And in 2020, we also, due to what we have done to reskill and to cross-skill and to upskill all our employees during COVID, we were awarded the Workforce Resilience Award in last year's presentation. So during COVID, what we did was we actually trained and we did a job redesign and upskill 100% of local workforce. Thanks to the government, we had some fundings and we were able to maintain the workforce itself. For job redesign was what we did was we did a lot of job redesign in all departments: culinary, engineering, food and beverage, front office, housekeeping, as well as talent and culture, HR. What happened was how this whole program started is we had the strategic communication from our leader, which was the general manager. He shared the importance of job redesign and how we're going to go about it to make them understand, to make all our talents understand that this is important to be able to reskill and cross-skill every one of them. So that was the first thing that we did. And then we actually had to create a growth mindset among our executive leaders, technically our head of departments. So what's a growth mindset? You all know what's a fixed mindset, right? So fixed mindset is failure is the limit of my abilities. So what we did was basically to challenge them, to help them grow, to and also understand that feedback is constructive. And of course, I like to try new things. And that's something that we always created in the hotel itself, a growth mindset. And I always tell them, be mad to be able to make a difference. So what we did was we created a video. This is our chief engineer, Iranius, on the left. And on the right is Veronica, I think, yeah. So technically, she was basically trying to teach him how to set up a room. So just watch and see.
The chief engineer, Iranius.
I'm Victoria. I'm from housekeeping. Teach you how to make the bed.
Not easy, yeah. Remember, as a chief engineer.
How I do this job, I think they'll never come to do.
She said you passed. She said you passed.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were surprised that he passed. So this is something that we did for job redesign. We actually cross-trained some of the housemen to go to do rooms as well, and also technicians as well. And after this program that we did with the chief engineer, he told me privately, don't send this video to my wife, so that his wife would not never know that he did this. So what we did was, of course, we had to go through the professional leaders, the managers and executives to embrace the change and then upsell the benefits of job redesign to our rank and file staff. And of course, most importantly is to be able to build capabilities of all our talents. So this is a story of Umam, who actually, listen to his story first.
Hi, I'm Kumar. I'm 64 years old and recently retired from the aviation industry and having worked for over 40 years, including some stint in the United States. Upon my retirement, I was scouting for some job opportunities and I came across this position as a culinary coordinator with the hotel, and I just applied for it. And good enough, I was called up for an interview and subsequently been offered the role of a culinary coordinator, where I'll be working in the culinary department. And secondly, I also noticed that besides there are also many other of my age group or older who are employees of the hotel, and that's a very nice thing to observe that there are still opportunities for senior citizens like us to be in the workforce.
Interestingly, Kumar also likes to cook, so he actually learned a few menus from the chef itself. So I've also shared this how Novotel Singapore Steven celebrates and empowers our older employees in an HR article. So just listen to this.
John Cotter, who was a leadership guru for many years at Harvard Business School, said, "Can we have breakfast?" I said, "Sure, John." And he said, "Look, I want to say something. How old are you now?" I said, "Well, I just turned 59. So, well, next year you'll be 60. He said, "You got about 30 years to live, 30 good years." He said, "Think back to when you were 30 and all the things you've done between the age of 30 and 60. Aren't you a lot wiser now than you were at 30? Think about what you can do for the next 30 years."
So these are some articles that came out in Straits Times. So there's a link there. So the action plan to help older Singaporeans to live well as they age and work longer. And there are many of them out there who want to find jobs. And like I think Dr. Salim mentioned, it's about the desire and the passion to want to serve the guests and to learn. There's another article to reap longevity dividends from Singapore's aging population. I think that was an interesting article that I was reading recently. And of course, what retirement most seniors in Singapore opting to work past 60. Because I always believe if you retire, it could be the end of everything. So I also don't plan to retire so soon as well. And of course, this was an article just recently. Who work for a job is this workplace discrimination? So I guess it's important for us to understand that, especially in the hospitality industry, we need people, and these people have the desire, they want to work. We are always open to them, and the best thing is they are flexible in their work the work timings, especially the young ones. They don't want to work in the morning, so these uncle aunties will come and work in the morning and do a fantastic job. So if you ever come to a hotel, you'll see these uncle aunties serving you, breakfast. So as I always say, we don't hire for skills, we hire for attitude. You can always teach skills, and that's something that we can always do. That's from Simon Sinek. So remember, one day you wake up and there won't be any more time to do things you always wanted. Do it now. And that's from Nike, just do it. So with this, I end my session. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Leslie, for this phenomenal presentation, and actually to see, live cases and like things that are happening on the ground. What's interesting is that, like all three speakers have mentioned, it's not just one person, one community doing something. It's this entire holistic approach that's coming together, right? From strategic communication, growth mindset, embracing change, your leaders, your people, your workers, your government, everybody's supporting, as well as upskilling and upselling, not just training, but job redesign and building capabilities as well. So question would be that, all this is very good, but, I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. But, on the job, you'd be assessed for your performance. So how does performance management practice, at least at Novotel, look like? Given that there might be different pace of working or style, and what is your how do you do it?
Okay, so performance is important, especially in any workplace. So for me, I've always believed it's communications. I guess it's important for the communication flow to be able to have. So it's important for our managers to have regular conversations, to have check-ins with the employees, the talents. And I guess that's where things work out. So sometimes our virtual workers, they come and see me, talk to me, to ask for advice. How do I go about it? Of course, I can give them some advice, but it's always best to go back to the managers. So if you ask me, it's always having that communication channel to move forward. Because a lot of times is if you keep there's a lot of assumptions here and there, you will never get things moving. Yeah. So I would think it's very important in any workplace, not only for mature workers, for anybody here, to have that check-ins. A lot of times, if the key word we always have is we're too busy. Just have that. I think we always have that thing called kopi talk. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, why not? And I think it's important to have that conversation. So for us in hotels, we are quite lucky. We have a canteen for cafeteria. So it's always important. I always tell managers, go spend time, talk to your talents, and just have understand, hey, how's things? How was your weekend? So it's important. And interestingly, you listen from all these talks. Like I told you, Uncle Sam, his adventures in the army. Sometimes he tells us all the young ones. He's always there to speak to those. We got some interns coming here. I say, go see Uncle Sam. He prepare you for NS. Don't worry. So it's always important to have that. Yes.
Right. So which means
on to what Mr. Leslie has shared, right? I thought it was quite interesting about the conversation. Actually, I always think that the conversations, right, with workers, right, and even like what you mentioned with mature workers, right, I think you need to start really early. We don't wait till you're going to reach your retirement age then you
Yes.
start the conversation. You should start way early. And then I think then we can plan ahead, like taking into consideration what would the needs and aspirations would be. Maybe some of them may want to continue to work full time, or some of them may want to take on a mentorship role, for instance. Then we could actually plan ahead for that rather than wait till. Yeah, so definitely, Leslie, I agree with you.
Thank
I
you.
think I also want to echo what Leslie talked about. It is actually a built into your human resources practice. Yeah, it's a
Yes.
appraisal system, right? It's not because of the age. It's actually you do it because it's actually part of the job performance review. And then
Yes.
so if actually just as what you said, just actually give some times, not to mention about we are too busy, and then sit down and do some coaching session. And
Correct.
I think that apply to anyone. It's not about the mature worker. So because I saw some of the Q&A mentioned about the age, it's not about the age.
Yes.
Yeah, it's actually about the attitude and the skills. I totally agree with what Leslie talked about.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay,
Thank you, Dr.
think
Celine.
now that we are there are lots of questions coming in. I was just wondering that we have spoken about all the good cases and all the journeys that have been good here. Maybe have there, just want to hear from you, have there been I mean, we want to hear from you, like what are the challenges that you might have faced in bringing about this change transformation, especially with mature workers? Like were there parties that were not accepting or unsuccessful, and then how did you make it successful, or what were the things? Yes.
Can I share this?
Yes, anyone.
This is a real example. So it's also the mindset of the mature workers. So I had this example of a technician, another technician came into work, 64 years old, I think. First thing he told me, I'm old. I said, oh, I'm old. How to? Then I said, how old are you? Of course I knew lah. They said, oh, I'm 64. I said, 64 still young lah. I know of a friend who was I know of a person who retired at 91 and passed on at 92. I said, you also know him? He said, really? I said, yeah, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. So I turned around, I said, hey, so are you old now? No, I'm young. So we went on with the process, and then he went to meet the chief engineer, and then he was employed. So I guess it's also the mindset of the mature workers. It's important not only for the mindset of the mature workers. In a hotel, I think I don't think it is a real thing. It is real that our head of departments know it is important to take any employees who have that mindset, the desire. I think Dr. Celine was saying, the desire and the passion to be able to learn, and the hospitality to be able to serve our guests. And that starts from there. Everything else, I think you saw my last slide was skills. I can train you, no problems. Everything else I can train you, but if you have that mindset and that the growth mindset, it will work. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, then there was this interesting question on, I think, the culture. How do you create such a culture in the organization? I was reading one of the questions was based on this.
Okay, again, me. So in the hotel industry, at least in Accor, we have a cultural transformation program that everyone goes through on the first 3 days. So we have an induction on the first day, and the second day is a cultural transformation. We call it Heartist program. So basically, you start from the heart, and you'll be able to work through it. So the values also plays a very important role. So as it is, the hotel, everyone goes through the same cultural transformation. It's important. So we created a culture that we have in the hotel. So everyone knows. So of course, we always share that we employ mature workers. We don't call them PWs, we call them talents with unique needs, as well as, of course, I don't say so loud, but we have also people from Yellow Ribbon as well. Yeah, so we give them the opportunity to do that. So they know that we have all this variety of, buffet, I can call it, of talents that we have in the hotel as well. Yes.
Oh, now can I chime in a bit, right? I think leveraging on Leslie's response and also the questions, right, about mature workers and the culture, all that, right? I'm also thinking that actually at the workplace, I think it's not so much anymore about mature workers or younger workers or whatever. I don't think we should make that kind of differentiation. Yeah, I think that it's really at the workplace, actually, it is a multi-generation workplace and everyone is different. Even every mature worker is different. Every younger worker is different. So I don't think we need to make the differentiation between who and who, but what are the strengths of each individual and how we can then leverage the strength of each individual so that they can find meaningfulness in their job as well as they can contribute meaningfully to the organization. I thought that's important rather than the age per se. Yeah.
Correct. I mean, like I shared the example of the ex-commando officer because we went training together. Surprisingly, of course, I'm younger than him. Then he came and wanted to be a security officer. I said, no, I know you're very good with, you can speak, you can talk to anybody. He was our chief motivator. And true enough, he was really, really good with the guests. He can speak to them. You think an army guy will be an army guy, but actually he has got different skill sets. And it really works. Today we're still in contact. Sometimes I joke with him over WhatsApp. Yeah.
I think to
Right.
echo this, right? I think another layer that we should also consider is the leadership. Yeah, and what the leaders, they buy in. Yeah, and then so I know some company because of the CEO, they actually are very inclusive. Yeah, and then so somehow, the culture is there already. Yeah, the challenges is those who actually don't really have this inclusive mindset. Yeah, then how to do it? Yeah, and so it actually need to, as I mentioned about the longevity ecosystem framework, right?
Yeah.
We need more business cases. So Leslie, yeah, your cases are very important. We need more researchers. So Ceiling and we need to work closely together
Yes.
to work on more researchers and then to create, the best practice and get more organizations to know actually what they can do. Because some people it's not because they don't actually they are not intended to do it, it's because they don't have time to think about it.
Yeah,
and they're too busy to work on their business. Yeah, but when they really look at their manpower projections, that become an issue. They know that, hey, I don't have enough people. I need to retain my workforce. I need to train more people to work for me because I need to increase the productivity of my company. So these are all interrelated. So I think, this seminar, I think is very good. Yeah, we need to create more awareness about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and sharing the best case
Yes.
studies. Yes.
I
So
agree.
Leslie, yours will be many case studies.
Sure.
Right.
I'll bring my
Right.
colleague along in that.
So actually, recently in the news, there were also the tripartite, guidelines for discrimination, and if you, face the, so I think the labor policies, legal aspects, they are working hand in hand together with lifelong learning, and we have case studies. But what more should maybe come from a policy side or from training side? So what more should Singapore government, all of us, kind of do?
First
Or
of
maybe-
all, I say thank you to IAL for this educational tour that you've done this webinar. I think education starts from us, educating the workforce or educating companies and people to understand. Because a lot of times, it's because like I mentioned, a lot of mature workers are not allowed to go to work because the children says, "Hey, don't go and work, it's going to be tough for you." So if you educate and then say, "Hey, actually, there's an opportunity for this senior mature workers to be able to contribute or to be gainfully employed," it is important. So to me, it's educating the main force. I think that comes from NTUC, right? Yeah. So things for me, it's education. Yes.
Okay.
Can
Any
I also
other?
add in?
Yeah.
I think
Please.
Please.
another thing that I think we really need to think about is how to create the best practice of the age-friendly human resources guideline. Because currently we don't really have in Singapore. Yeah, we may consider to have it and then advocate it to other company. Yeah, and doing this is not difficult because while we organize the Aging Business Roundtable, we talk to a lot of company and they actually have some sort of welfare or benefit for the employee, but it's a matter of the mindset, how you actually modify it. and make it more age inclusive. Yeah, and some of them, they may not think that, oh yeah, I have family leave. Yeah, and some company, they actually have, childcare leave and also elder care leave. It really depends on whether we also learn from each other's. But if we have some of the best practice that we can share among the company, I think that that will actually create another culture. Yeah, and then that will be actually good for company, and also from the government perspective, will be easier to also promote age inclusive workplace.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think even recently, right, like you say that, maybe not all seniors are keen to work full-time, and then how we can explore micro job. Actually, I think it's actually micro job is not impossible in Singapore. We always think that it's not possible, right? But actually it's possible. Recently, there's even one news article in the Straits Times about micro jobs being offered at some of the aging centers. And the active and healthy seniors are actually engaged to take on simple community-based tasks, like deliver meals, medication reminders to other seniors. And then the seniors are then given a small allowance of $1 for each delivery of food or medicine reminder. So actually, I think moving forward is how we can think about scaling up these micro job opportunities, and how to curate the relevant job opportunities and match our seniors to these jobs as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, but sometimes I think it's also the HR aspect when they offer the micro job, right? And they would think about, okay, then that also increase other costs from HR perspective. So this again, the mindset changes of the HR people too. Yeah, and so we need micro job. Why? Because we are shortage of manpower. And actually, if you look at, a lot of people, they don't want to work for full time. Yeah, and they want to have more flexibility because they actually also think about the purpose of life. Yeah, and then so now more people, they actually want to have more quality of life. Yeah, and so this is something that we also need to bear in mind. Yeah, and while people, they retire, sometimes they don't want to fully retire, but at the same time, they want to engage meaningful work. So that's why some elderly, they are actually willing to do some volunteer work, or maybe even the allowance is not a lot, they are also willing to do. Yeah, but of course, if the budget is available, we should actually also give them a reasonable allowance.
True.
Right. Okay, so there's this very interesting question, because there's a lot of funding that is available. There's employee assistance schemes, there's productivity solution grants. So is it that our folks are not aware, or slowly maybe awareness is increasing? But also, how do we get companies, big and small, to really hire, train, and from lower basic skills to higher skills? So what are your thoughts? Just practical. There's this question, yeah.
I think maybe let me try to take a step on this. Then Leslie and Carol, you'll try to add on. I think it's a tough question, but I suppose, right, when you mentioned that there are a lot of incentives, there are a lot of subsidies, it's really true. I have to say that really, if we comb through all the subsidy support, right, we have a lot. But I think there are three key groups, be it whether is it the organization or is it from the workers themselves perspective, right? There are three. I will broadly categorize them into three groups. One group, they know about all these subsidies and they have taken active steps to go and apply. Okay, but there are also the other two groups. One is they are aware, but they decide not to tap on these subsidies. And also the third group that who don't know about. There are actually companies. There are really companies who are not aware. And so they have not tapped on this. So I think it is the second and the third group, be it in terms of the workers themselves or is it the employers. So I think we will need to understand why the second and the third group has not done anything about it. Yeah. The third one at least is not so bad that if it is a lack of awareness, then let's see of ways and approaches to increase awareness. But the second group is perhaps something that we want to understand also, is that why is it that they are aware but yet they have not done anything? They have not taken active steps. So I think it's the second and third group. Yeah. Over to you, Leslie or Carol.
So, like, I think one of the things is, take a simple example, skills future credit. Many people have not used it yet. When I ask them, say, what's that? They're like, oh no. I say, you can go, uncle, auntie, go and learn a skill, flower arrangement. So you try to talk to them and ask them, make them understand it. So I think majority of them are in the second group of yours, Dr. Siling. And I think it is very, very sad that at least they are ignorant is fine, you can tell them. But those who are aware and they do not know because they think it's too much of work or there's too much to understand it. So I still go back to education somehow, somewhere. Yeah.
When you talk about education, then I need to answer, right?
Yeah, it's all planned.
No, but I think you're right. Education is very important. But I think another thing is about while we have a lot of resources there, yeah, it also go back to because I also heard from some of the company, yeah, and they may not need the resources. Yeah, what they need is if you can have better other incentive. For example, yeah, some of the small or maybe big company, they actually mention about that if I recruit more mature workers, would there be a chance that for me to increase the number of the foreign worker in their company? So they did talk about it. It's not because they don't want to do it. I have more incentive. Yeah, and then to that, that's actually some company mentioned about it. Yeah, and then another thing is about we actually also can think from whether the job that we offer to the mature workers are meaningful or not. Because it's not only about the employer, you pick the people, but employee will also pick whether I like to do your job or not. Yeah, of course, if they need to make a difference, then they have to actually, will do whatever they need to do because they need to make a living. But some of the elderly or some of the mature workers, they will select the job that they find meaning to their life. Yeah, and so that's the reason why what Celine mentioned about some of the elderly, they are okay just get $1 allowance, but they can help other people because they actually achieve a bigger good. Yeah, and this is also a good thing about Singapore because we actually also try to promote good and also work with other people and serve others. Yeah, but I think we have to bear in mind that when we have a lot of scheme, then we have to ask ourselves what are their needs. Yeah, what are the rationale and whether this can actually really achieve the ultimate goal or not. Yeah, so this is actually my humble sharing.
Okay, thank you. So there are lots of questions. So there are a couple on promotion and salary and par and motivation. So are we considered equal? Are we considered, there might be certain who are higher skilled, but what if similar skill, but then you have a younger worker versus the older worker? So lots on promotion, salary. Yeah, what are your takes? Will they be paid the same salary? Are there examples on promotion? Yeah, just putting it out there.
Okay, so for us in our hotel industry, at least for us, everybody at that level will be paid the same salary. There's no differentiation just because you're older, you get $1 lesser, or $1 more. So basically, you come in, and of course, promotion is all open to your performance, and if you can really perform, why not? You can be promoted accordingly. So we don't base it on like I think Dr. Siling said, we don't talk about mature workers. They are all treated equal. It's whether if they come and say, I'm old, then you're old. I can't help it. I mean, I can give you another example. I had this chef. He was, I think, 62, I think. So he goes and tell the young boy, hey, help uncle do this. Then they, one time is okay, 2 times, 3 times. Then he says, give chance to uncle. Don't let uncle help uncle to carry. So of course the younger ones get frustrated. Then they can't tell me. Then I say, okay, let me talk to him. I say, hey, what's happening? Why are you asking people to give chance? I say, why do I give chance to your salary as well? I mean, it's a mindset again. So again, in our hotel, we are quite there's a parity. Everybody is paid equally based on which level you are at. And promotion is also, it is all dependent. I mean, like I think also Mr. The carpenter, the painter, a carpenter. Yeah, so the chief engineer says that, hey, is there any way for us to upgrade him? I say, sure. when the cycle comes in, we'll definitely do it. Yes. Yami's done a fantastic job, why not? Yes.
All right. So I'm just looking at the number of likes that are given. So there are 5 likes. It's not a question, I think it's a comment that government should definitely lead this initiative, which I believe it is. And there should be a certain quota to recruit matured workers. Anyway, that's just a comment that I just highlight. There are 3 likes on this very, very long question. I will try and decipher. So it's right above. Maybe I say answer live. Let's see what happens. Okay. If the government is truly encouraged those above 50 to work and continue to work, the government should take the lead to hire those group of matured employees above 50. Instead of, oh my God, okay, instead of taking foreign young talents from overseas. Do these young talents returning to their home country in the region, they are already trained and experienced and will accelerate the economies and will challenge Singapore's future competitiveness. A much more tough future for Singapore. Yeah, what are your thoughts? Okay.
Maybe I can answer the questions. Yeah, and so maybe Sini and Leslie later on can also add in. I think again, go back to what we all talk about. It's not about the age. Right? It's actually about your performance. Yeah, and then so if I if actually I give preference to those who are 55 or above, but they cannot perform the job, then at the end, that also not the benefit to the company. So the company need to think whether it is your ability, your experience, yeah, and then your knowledge, your skill set are suitable to the company or not. There are a lot of successful cases that what I know, yeah, and so even though, for example, like what I know in Prudential, they actually retire. First, they don't have retirement age. Second, they actually also continue to recruit people they're doing as a broker. Yeah, and because they have the skill set and the knowledge. So what I actually also asked the HR people, why you have a group of people, they are mature worker, they are also a broker, because the younger ones, they don't want to be a broker. Yeah, and then so somehow, so you see, actually, they are feeling in the market, there are high demand. So that's why those experience actually help a lot. Yeah, so again, it's about the job nature, it's about your experience. Yeah, it's not about your age. Yeah, so even with talking about promotion, right? So what I know is some young people may complain, the older ones still stay in the job but not retire. Yeah, so again, it also go back to whether your company has a good HR policy. For example, like mentorship program. And then so you are actually doing a coaching program that you are training the younger one to take over your place. And then as an older person, whether we are actually also ready to let go or not. Yeah, and so sometimes it depends on what you want in certain age. Yeah, so this is actually also very important. Yeah, and again, I always talk about is go back to the HR policy, because when you have a lot of good initiative, and you will actually make your company healthier, and in terms of intergenerational harmony. Yeah.
I thought to build on to Prof. Carol's point, right? Definitely agree with Prof. Carol, right? And I'm also thinking, right, this one I will have to check in with Leslie later, right? I'm sure if there are 2 candidates, one foreign and one local, but they have the same skill set, I don't think that the preference is always given to the foreign applicants. I'm sure that what employers is look out for is not so much about nationality or about age, but really about whether the individual is able to contribute to the organization. So I thought that might be the first criteria in terms of applicant, whether who out of the 2, right? If there's 2 or 3 or 4, right? It is whether which applicant can contribute to the organization,
Right.
which applicant actually meets the needs of the company better. I thought that's one. And then on the other point also about mentoring, I think that we also need to open up our mindset about the mentoring could be in both aspects. Mutual mentoring, it could be that the young ones could actually mentor the older ones in certain skills that the older ones do not have. And the older ones can also mentor the younger ones in perhaps experience or other skills that the younger ones may not have as well. So I think we should really think about open up the idea of how we can learn from each other regardless of age. Yeah, correct. Over to you, Leslie.
Yeah, okay. So back to this question, I think whether the younger ones will get trained and go back to build the economy, which I think it's okay. I mean, don't need to go back to another country. We actually in the hospitality industry is a merry-go-round. You will see them moving around in the country itself through different hotels. Same for any industry as well. So I think we all heard this. It's better to train the person than not to train the person and doing the same old skills. And I think that's very important. So for us, it's important. Training is a lifelong, I would think you must have the passion. And if you don't have the passion, I mean, I've done training. I've seen people sleeping in my class. I say, okay, fine. I say, don't snore, Kenny. Just pretend to listen and just acknowledge that you understand what I'm saying. So I think it's about the passion and the understanding that you want to learn. So in hospitality industry, we do a lot on the job training. We learn, I mean, machines that come in, coffee machine, we do that. And also we have, like I told you, all the uncles that come here, they basically train a lot of new casuals that come in, and they train them how to use the machines. They teach them how to serve the guests. I've seen it myself, how they can actually coach. And I think Dr. Salim mentioned about mentoring and coaching. It comes a long way. Yeah. So there is no fear for, if you have fear for training people because they're going to bring their skill set to something else, then we have a big problem. We should not be fearful of it. In fact, and back to your question to that, Dr. Seling, between a local and foreigner, I will take a local lah, because I got no quota.
Right. So actually, like we're hearing that actually HR policies have been revamped. So is that true at Mr. Leslie, your place, or maybe Dr. Celine, Prof. Carol, from research, did it show like how HR policies have been revamped to for performance, for ranking, for salary benchmarking,
Yes.
insurance?
Yeah, we're pretty good we got a structured program now. So basically, in fact, at this point in time in August, we're supposed to do the mid-year check-ins now. So it is important for us to be able to do that and to have that conversation. In fact, even including me, together with my general manager as well, to see where I am as well. Yes.
Right. So of course there would be prejudices. There would be, given changes coming. So people would feel, even though we are trying to embrace positivity, of course there will be hiccups. So all right. So just wondering, or rather a rather comment or observation. I had a chat this morning with a colleague, and one of the interesting aspects that he shared was that even our advertising and marketing, needs to showcase, or rather the MNCs also need to showcase maturer workers or the current generation of workers, larger population, rather than, the ideal young worker. So I guess there's this marketing or branding would also have to come together all.
Yes.
For this holistic change, especially given that population is aging and fertility rate is declining. So I guess there's no other choice but to embrace it.
Yeah, I just want to share with you all one example. This is actually from one of my students, actually age 66 years old. Yeah, and then she actually is a app developer. Yeah, but I don't mention about the company that she applied, but the company that she applied and didn't ask for her age. Yeah, and then during the application, don't ask for the age. Yeah, and just submit the CV, and then so go through the interview. They accepted her. Yeah, and then after that, then during the the recruitment, I mean the process, then they actually ask for her ID. So I find that it's actually something that quite good, yeah, and because the company is not it's actually from other country, yeah, and then so somehow what they are trying to do, I find that again during the advertisement, of course they also change the approach also, yeah, but if actually you see this is something that we may also consider in the long run if we do the recruitment. It's not about the age again, yeah, but even though you are 70, you can also apply for the job, but somehow the HR people, they don't know about your age, but you have gone through all the interview and at the end you got the job. Yeah, it's so excited.
Actually, this is according to the TAFEC guidelines. We're not supposed to ask for the age or gender as well. So it goes basically based on your competency. It's actually competency based, because if you're going to do that, I will not be able to find people to serve our guests. Yeah, so it's basically like I mentioned, it's about the passion and wanting to serve the guests. So I think Dr. Sterling mentioned from the start, it's not about the age. It starts from wanting to do it, the desire.
Yeah. But I want to mention is actually some company, they are very open to have this kind of HR policy. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, the tripartite guidelines are actually talking about gender, marriage, pregnancy. Yes. So, yeah, if we are facing discrimination, I guess we can go to them. Yes, that's what I read. It was a very detailed report.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a question on motivation for lifelong learning, especially, we always keep hearing a lot about you are supposed to be productive as you age, you'll be more productive. And then I think a very good question that Prof. Carol also, mentioned, or rather phrased, was, I think you need to start thinking about your mature career planning, or rather, given that longevity has increased, what do you want to do with your life? So what is our motivation, and what should we go forward towards?
You ask me, my motivation not to retire is to live longer.
Stay healthy.
Yeah, and be happy. I think, and that's not for me actually. It's like I told you, I introduced our heroes, our everyday heroes. So they always say, Uncle, why you work? Why don't you retire? Come here, I can see you, can talk to you. So they just want to be happy to be able to continue to be gainfully employed for sure, to be able to share what they can share with the younger generation and even with us as well. Sometimes I sit down with them during lunch and listen to the stories. They're quite good. Like I mentioned earlier also, they are very good with our talent unique needs. They really take care of them very well. It's very obvious. Yeah. Sometimes they can't tell me, say, hey, this and that. I say, oh, okay, thank you very much. So it is just being happy. So if you have that mindset, like I think I mentioned the growth mindset, everything goes up. Yeah.
So that is something that we as leaders, or we as people in organization, can help to encourage our folks.
Be mad, make a difference.
Yes. Okay, I think we have we've had a rather terrific discussion and very productive. So maybe for the last couple of minutes, I would have each one of you to share with us your three takeaways for the audience from your respective. Yes. Who would like to go first?
Ladies first.
Three takeaways.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the audience. Or maybe what can the audience take away?
Maybe let me try first.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I will take away, I think it's 3 A's. The first A, I think that in this evolving world, we need to continue to stay adaptable. And then the second one is to continue to learn, okay, so that we can have the ability. Okay, so these are the 2 A's, like adaptable, ability, and also I think most importantly to stay agile. be open to change. And if there's any, I'm sure that throughout our learning that it's never a smooth journey. Yeah, it can be due to work constraint, time constraint, or whatever issues, right? I think that we just need to stay agile, adaptable, and for us to have the ability as well. I think it will help us to be able to contribute meaningfully, be it to the society or for us to continue to stay meaningfully employed, and for us to find that passion in what I think Leslie is actually also sharing, that mature workers are always looking for passion as well to continue to stay working. Yeah, so I thought the 3 A's: adaptable, ability, and agile.
So you have 3A, then maybe I have 3C. This 3C actually is from the successful aging plan, and mentioned about care, connectedness, and also contribution. So what I actually think that for aging, we need to embrace our aging, acknowledge that the aging issue and our physical differences or biological differences when we age. But what actually hope that is, you are working in a company, hopefully, the company, they actually have a caring culture, and this company caring culture can also expand to the community. And because what you need is continue to connect with other people. So you need to stay connected, to other people, whether you are working or doing volunteer work or with your family, with your friends. And at the end, what we do is share about your experience and contribute to other people. I think that's very important. And in this context, I really hope that, when we, do the job or not do the job, is again, not about the age. It's about something that, what you want to, and then, the purpose of your life.
Okay, I have 26 from A to Z. No. Okay, so 3, so it's basically the growth mindset, which I think is important. So always stay young. Okay, the moment you want to act, you want to be old, there's nothing you can do about it. Always remember, have that growth mindset of being young. And of course, the desire to be able to share experiences, which is very important, the desire. And last but not least is continuous learning. And I think the Singapore government is lifelong learning. Please use your Skills Future Connect.
Very, very well.
Thanks.
Very well. Very, very deep thoughts and excellent takeaways. 3 A's, 3 C's: growth, desire, continuous. So I guess for me would be then we shouldn't feel low. I guess that's the takeaway for the audience. I think the prejudices, the thoughts that you're aging, you're not aging, you're doing this, appearances, I think those are one thing, but nevertheless, it is easier said than done. But no need to feel low, but this is your chance, I guess, to make yourself aware, to really embrace it, to talk to your colleague, to your line manager, to your manager, to everybody, to, the government guidelines are also out there. Reach out and upskill, reskill, and I think read broadly as well, and then try and embrace whatever is possible. So enjoy life. I think given that life is short now, even though our longevity is increasing, but still take a step. So with that in mind, I think we will now wrap up the session, and I'd like to thank our speakers as well as the audience so for a terrific discussion, both on screen as well as off screen. There was, I guess, plenty of questions out there, and we've hoped to achieve, address them collectively and thematically. And I'm grateful for our speakers for sparing their time and sharing with us such great applications, research, strategic research, labor practices, what to look out for, what exists. And I think there's another takeaway, which is that, it is one thing to have all these folks and collaborators and, all these institutions that are set up. But it's a different thing when you want to make it happen, when you want to make this collaboration happen. And definitely it begins with your education, raising awareness, and developing and implementing plans for action. So yes, and right. So driving change. So that's the last quote. So driving change is definitely a critical step in setting organizational standards, and leaders define, impart, and scaffold these values, and these probably are reinforced by our members of staff. And with the lack of it, I guess things don't move or motivate or shape or redefine. So let us be the change that we wish to see. And with that, I'd like to also share with you that we've come to the next, to the wrap-up aspect. And there are productivity solution grants, which means job redesign grants. And one of which is what IL is also supporting, and which is our, this is an initiative by the WSG Workflow Skills, as well as the SNEP. So please do scan the QR code and learn more about, job redesign efforts and how IL can help you with it. And the last would be, we have a short survey. So please, take some time to, just give us your feedback and what more topics would you like to hear. Yes, that's about it. Thank you, everyone.